Hi and welcome to the webinar today, which is the second session of the 90-day marketing plan stream. How are you different? This is the fourth session of Month of Marketing 2017, which is brought to you by Bizink and Revolutionary Firm. So we're a week into Month of Marketing and it's going really well. We've got over 600 people registered and we've still got 9 great events to come. We've got 5 workshops and 3 Q&A sessions and some fantastic guests to come, including Trent McLaren of Intuit, David Cristello of Jetpack Workflow. So if you want to see all of the events, you'll want to visit monthofmarketing.com and have a look at the schedule page on there. If you're already registered because you're at this event, so you're registered for all of the events, and we'll be sending out reminders a day before and an hour before each event if you want to come along. If you can't make any of the events, we will be sending out recordings of all of them to you, and we'll also be adding them to the website monthofmarketing.com. So, and today the slides and the workbook which we're using for the 90-day marketing plan are in the admin window there. So if you haven't got that workbook, you can download it from the handouts in the GoToWebinar control panel. And just before I get kicked off, a little bit of housekeeping. If you get any technical issues, you can use the chat or questions window in the admin panel, and Anthea will help you out there. And if you have any questions for me, anything to do with what we're going to talk about today, please use that questions window. If I can't get to them during the session, I'll be sticking around at the end to answer those questions for you. All right, so let's get kicked off. Just quick overview about me. My name is Matt Wilkinson. I'm the founder and CEO of Bizink. I've been working in online business for 15 years or more than that actually, and exclusively with accountants and bookkeepers since 2010. And what we do at Bizink is help busy accountants and bookkeepers grow using marketing, online marketing. And we work with firms right across the English-speaking world. So before we get into today's session about being different and creating a unique selling proposition, just a quick recap of what we did from the last session. And if you missed that, if you go to monthofmarketing.com and have a look at the ideal prospect page there, you can get a recording of that and see what we talked about. But in summary, we were basically highlighting the point that if you're marketing to everybody, you're really marketing to nobody. So you have to have some focus in your marketing, and that's about defining who's your ideal prospect and trying to go after them, and that's what we're going to be doing more of today. So in terms of defining that ideal prospect, we looked at 4 different factors. One was deciding who you'd like to work with. Business should be fun, right? And so we want to work with people that we enjoy working with. Really importantly, we defined their pain points. What keeps them awake at night, because once you can work out how you can solve those, that's incredibly powerful, and that's what's going to bring people towards you. That's what's going to win you new clients. And the final part of that, which we're going to expand on today, is how are you different? So there's no good sort of having an ideal prospect if everyone else is going after the same person, and so we need something to make us different. So why does it actually matter about being different? We hear this a lot in the market, that we've got to have something unique, a niche. Why is it important to be different? Because sometimes you aren't that different from other firms, right? But you know you're better than them. I'm sure you've had that kind of scenario. You think, well, we're better than those guys. Why don't we win more kind of clients than them? The problem is like being better, having better customer service, for example, is really hard to communicate in terms of marketing. Great service will get you more referrals. It's going to keep clients more sticky. Make it easier to sell services to your existing clients, which obviously are both excellent ways to grow. But what we're looking at in this stream of the 90-day marketing plan is how to go after and win more clients, new clients. And to win a new client, that usually means you're going to have to convince them to leave their current firm. And that might be really easy if they're unhappy, but how do we locate people who are unhappy? That's kind of impossible, right? Or, certainly it just comes down to chance. And that's where being different, having something unique that you can communicate to your ideal prospect becomes really important. Because if you can give people a compelling reason to switch to you, because you can give them something that is really of value to them that they're not currently getting, that's enough to overcome that inertia that we know a lot of people have about switching to a new firm. And in marketing, that's what we might call, a unique sales proposition, or USP, probably a term that quite a lot of you have heard about, and we'll delve into that in a little bit more detail now. And the concept of the USP was created by, if you've ever watched the TV series Mad Men, Rossa Reeves, who created the concept of the USP, would have been one of the people they modeled the Don Draper character on. And he came up with this idea of the unique sales proposition in his book Reality and Advertising from 1961. So you might think, what relevance does a concept from almost 60 years ago have for marketing, an accounting or bookkeeping firm today? And some people do think the USP concept is outdated. I think it's still incredibly relevant when it comes to running focused marketing campaigns, which is what we're looking to do in this stream. So to me, the importance of having that thing that you can say that's unique, that you can convince someone to come and work with you about, there's a few aspects of that. The first one is that it keeps your marketing focused. If you sort of define down, this is our unique selling point, this is what we're going to go to market with, that keeps you focused on that thing, and not getting distracted and doing the kind of scattergun marketing that probably a lot of us have done in the past and just doesn't get results. And because if you have that unique sales proposition clear in your mind, it really helps drive your marketing messaging. You know what you want to communicate, and you've just got to go ahead and do that. And that's what we'll be doing in the next couple of sessions, is taking what we've learned today and then going out to the market and telling them about it. And once you do that, you can really stand out in what can be quite an undifferentiated marketplace. You'll have a big benefit over firms who do that very generic type of marketing. You'll have something that's that obviously by definition is unique. And a good USP, or I'd say you haven't got one unless it does this. It speaks directly to your prospect's pain points. We've defined who the ideal prospect is in the session last time, and this this statement that we're going to create will speak directly to those pain points that keep them awake at night, and that's very powerful. And when we add all those things together, just like I was talking about then, that can overcome that inertia of people who are tolerating average or below average service with their current provider, and give them a really compelling reason that they could come over to you. So before we get into how we actually create a USP for your firm, just a word of warning from the man himself, Rossa Reeves, who created the USP concept. You've got to actually make what you do interesting and different, not just sort of create marketing that says you're different. I would call this like deep differentiation instead of shallow differentiation. We've all seen websites. I see a lot of websites saying things like, "We're not your average accountant," or different from your average accountant. But everything they do screams average, and I can't see any way that they are different. It's very shallow. So we don't want to be like them. We're going to find something that's actually unique that we can market on. So what are some ways that you can be unique or different? One of the ways you could do that, and you'll have seen some firms trying to do this, is a price or maybe service guarantee. Maybe split this into two parts. So competing on price, I'd say that's a very poor differentiator. Um, you know, it's very easily for other competitors to go, okay, well, they do this for $99, we'll do it for 95 or 89 or whatever. And so you compete on price, and that can be easily matched, and it can become a race to the bottom. And keep going back to the fact that we're trying to find your ideal prospect here. Not just anyone. We want to go after the people you really want to work with. If you pick someone that's really price sensitive, is that really your ideal prospect? Having a service guarantee can be a differentiator, and I think that's a lot better than price. So something here, I mean, like for example, we'll get your accounts done for you by an exact date, or you'll get your money back. And those things can be quite powerful. People like those. They can build trust, but they are quite generic, and I think it's better to have more things than that in your USP. So another way you can become different is positioning. Like I mentioned, some people say the concept of the USP is a bit outdated, which I disagree with. But it's been replaced by positioning, which is where you might be offering the same as your competitors, but you position yourself as different from them. So an example of that might be two firms offering pretty much the same set of services, but one might have very conservative marketing materials. They might emphasize how long they've been around, their traditional values. They're kind of positioning themselves for a more mature demographic. The other firm might do pretty much the same stuff, but have a much more modern, flashy website, highlight the technology they use. They might say, oh, we've got a carbon neutral office, and so they're trying to position themselves for a younger market. So positioning is really important, and both of those things can work. But positioning alone, I think, isn't going to be enough to switch enough of the kind of prospects you want over to you. I think you need something more compelling than just positioning yourself. And that's where, for example, having a unique product or service could be really, really powerful. Because then, it's not just about necessarily going after a niche, which is often something that we hear a lot in the industry now. You could take a unique product or service to a more general market, and that could really make you stand out. Of course, in that that unique product or service needs to be something that the ideal prospect actually wants. The uniqueness in itself isn't the value there. It's that will make it stand out, but it has to be something that they obviously want. And so the final one that I've put here, it's by no means an exhaustive list. I just wanted to talk about some different ways you could be unique and different. But obviously operating in a niche, particularly if that was one where you were the only accountant or bookkeeper talking to that niche, that's very powerful. If you can go to somebody and say, look, your accountant is, or bookkeeper, they're not bad. They work with lots of businesses, but I understand your exact problems, your pain points. I work with lots of people like you. We can do these things for you that they can't. That's very powerful. And potentially combining those last two, operating in a niche and then having some form of unique product or service for that niche, that can create a very powerful proposition that you can go to market with. So bit of theory there. Let's get into the practicalities of this and have a look about how we can take what we learned about your ideal prospect last week and turn that into a unique selling proposition for your firm. So the formula that I think you should use for this goes like this. You look at an industry, a market segment, then your ideal prospect, and then their pain points. So I'll give you an example of this. I'm going to just use Bizink again as the example for this and how we've sort of modified what we do through time. And then I'll give you a quick example of like an accounting or bookkeeping firm as well. So with Bizink, when we kicked things off about 5 years ago, this is how ours would have gone. So the industry, professional financial services, the market segment, we were just looking at accountants then, not bookkeepers. And the type of firms that we wanted to work with were in New Zealand and Australia, small to medium sized, and who kind of, the characteristics of them, what they liked the latest technology and valued marketing. We knew they would be more receptive to what we did. Now the final part, the pain point, I think we got this wrong, or certainly we changed this. We thought the pain point was that, you know, they wanted modern websites with kind of really good content and marketing tools. But that was actually, you know, that was what we offered. That was part of the solution. That wasn't really the pain point. So kind of where we've got to now would be same industry. The market segment we've kind of broadened, and we work with accountants and bookkeepers, and we've broadened the geographical reach to all English-speaking countries. But the big difference here is we refine that pain point to, you know, the actual pain point wasn't that they wanted a website or, you know, email marketing tools or content. They might have wanted those things, but the real thing that they needed was that they wanted more leads, they wanted to grow, but lacked the time or skills to do marketing. So that's really important when you're thinking about creating your unique selling point, is to focus on the pain points and, you know, go back to what we did in the last session where we identified those pain points. What's the thing that keeps your ideal prospect awake at night? And we want to sort of talk to that and solve that for them. That's what's going to bring them to you. So what we do, we create this formula and then we turn this into a statement. Now, really want to point out that this is easy to sort of talk through. It's quite hard to go away and do this, and we're constantly refining this and thinking about it. And this is a really important part of this whole plan, is that, you know, it shouldn't hold up you go ahead and doing the 90-day plan. But this part is never finished, right? You can go back to this and keep thinking about it, keep tweaking it, because it's not easy. And you know, as you do more marketing, as you talk to more of your ideal prospects, you'll understand them more and more, and you can refine what you do. So, you know, this bit will be kind of tricky, but I think it's a really valuable thing to go through with your business and be constantly thinking about. So what we want to do is take this formula and turn it into a statement, because we want something that we can go and communicate to our ideal prospect with. And a great way to think about this is if you met your ideal prospect at, like, say, a networking event, and you just had 60 seconds to tell them why they should work with you. How would you do that? You know, in 2 or 3 sentences. How would you communicate your value? And that's what we're trying to get to here. So, you know, this is kind of what we've settled on at the moment. When I say settled, you know, like I say, we're constantly looking at this, and it'll be the same with you. But what we're trying to do here is, like, you know, we've identified that pain point is time. So, you know, busy accountants and bookkeepers, you know, we know all of you guys are really busy, so that's what we are focusing on. And, you know, the goal is winning more leads, less time. Again, it goes back to that sort of time poor pain point. Now, this is kind of where, you know, this is kind of where we're at right now, but we haven't always had this as our kind of unique selling point. We've had some different ones over the years, you know, marketing for busy accountants and bookkeepers, more leads and less time. So I was kind of talking to that pain point, but wasn't really specific enough. and a couple of others there where, we were still focused on that sort of websites aspect. So, um, it's something you constantly should be refining, playing around with. The great thing about online marketing, it gives us the opportunity to test things. It's not like printing an advert or a brochure that stuff is set in stone. So, we could try out different versions of our USP statement, see how people react to them, and then take that feedback and develop things. So to just run through another example of how this might work, um, this is the example that we've used in the workbook, which you can download from the handouts panel. So industry, construction businesses, drill that down to a market segment of owner managed building firms, and further define that down to that ideal prospect. So that turnover range. You obviously might add in some geographical stuff there as well. Most of you are going to kind of probably have a local focus to your marketing, so you'll definitely want to bring that in there. And then those pain points. So you can see these aren't the solutions. It's not the solution of getting paid, not getting paid on time, and having a high outlay at the start of projects, which creates stress. The pain point isn't cash flow planning. That's the solution to that pain point. And so, using that formula, this could be a USP statement that you would use for that firm. It's talking about stress. It's talking about their admin nightmare, which a lot of building businesses have. They're not great on the admin side, and obviously keeping more cash in their businesses is what they want. And so you create this statement, and then you don't just want that to sit in a drawer. You want to obviously communicate that out to the market. And so what you do with it, well, you use it to, different ways you can use it. So here's some examples of how we sort of use ours, not always in the same exact form. So you've got it in, that's my LinkedIn profile, or email marketing signature, even the name of the description of our Facebook group is talking to those pain points and to that kind of unique selling point. So what you're doing with that USP is taking it and using it to drive your marketing. If you're going after a certain type of prospect, having that USP in your marketing will always make it stronger. It's always going to make it more specific and more powerful. So you'll want that from every message you do. Think about your USP and how you're communicating that. So like I said at the start, this is actually, in some ways, this is quite a short and easy session for me to deliver. It's much harder for you to go away and think about that stuff, but it's incredibly valuable to go through that process, and it's something that we genuinely do and look at that. We go back to that all the time at Bizink. I think that's something that's really valuable for you, your staff. You can talk through with your clients. Does that resonate with them? So summing up, you think of your USP. It's like your elevator pitch to your ideal prospect. If you were just in an elevator with them and you had a matter of seconds to communicate the real value of what you can offer for them and why they should work with you, that's your USP. And it's got to be something where it's got to be a truly unique, different thing, not just some shallow kind of marketing claim. It's got to be backed up by your actual product and your service. And like I said, it's not easy, but that shouldn't stop you, going through this stream. Just get something down, and the way to refine it is actually get out there, do some marketing, and you will see what works and what doesn't. Sometimes I've sat there working on things like this, and it kind of hurts your head. But the process you go through to start really thinking about your clients' pain points and how you can solve those it's just incredibly powerful. Beyond just marketing, it really is kind of what can make you have a successful business model. And having that as well gives that focus to your marketing, and really drives it forward. If you know what message you want to communicate, it really brings that focus to your marketing, which in the session, the next session of the stream, we'll be looking at creating your prospect map. And that's where we're going to work out where your prospects hang out. Where do they kind of physically hang out? Where are they online? The Facebook groups, all the different places that they are, and we take that message to them. So I'm going to stick around to answer some questions now. Before I do that, the next session in Month of Marketing is Facebook Basics, Pages, Groups, and Ads. And that's Gayatri Wood, who works with Bizink, and also the Wow Company, who's a leading accounting firm in the UK. This will be a really great session. We ran this a couple of months back, and it was one of our most popular webinars ever. So we really wanted to repeat that because Facebook has become such a popular important marketing tool in the arsenal of accountants and bookkeepers that we wanted to repeat this session in Month of Marketing. So Gayatri is based in the UK, so those time zones are going to suit maybe the UK and US a bit more. If you're in Australia and New Zealand, and you don't fancy getting up quite late at night, or is it late at night? I'm trying to work it. No, it'll be early in the morning. Then we will be recording that, and we'll send you out the recording. You're already registered for Month of Marketing, so we'll send that out. So if we've got any questions, Anthea is going to ask me now, and just a couple of things on screen there. If you want some support with your marketing, our Facebook group Ascend, you can see the link for that online there, and that's a closed group, but if you go along and request a place in there, we'll let you in. And also check out monthofmarketing.com/prizes, where you can win a bunch of stuff, including winning a website and some marketing content from Bizink. And Revolutionary Firm are also offering some free coaching in there as well, so check that out. Anthea, do we have any questions?
Yeah, we've got some questions come through, but if anybody has any more, please put them into the questions window in the GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll get to them in a minute. But I do have some. I've got one here from Suzetta. She's asking, when you were talking about that USP formula, does it have to be an industry?
Not really, but I do think it will help to drill down on that. In that, if you don't have an industry, it can be quite generic. Now, it might be that I'll explain a bit more. I suppose it'd be more important when we come to the next part, which is the prospect map. What we're trying to do in this whole session is work out who your ideal prospect is and then get in front of them. If we don't drill down a little bit, probably by industry, it's really hard to work out where people are, because, for example, like people often say I focus on small businesses, but in any economy, that's most of the business. Most of the businesses are small businesses by definition. So although you might have something unique to offer them, how do we get in front of them? How do we work out where they are? So often, to make the marketing more effective, if we can drill down by an industry or market segment, that just enables us to be a bit more focused.
Yeah, definitely. I've got another question from Holly. Basically, she doesn't think she's got anything really that's different. How should she go about finding that, or what can she do?
So there's different, like So there's different ways that you can be different, and that could be ones like price, which I think is quite weak. You could make you could make like a service guarantee. So, the example I gave there was, we'll get your tax return done by a certain date, or we'll give you your money back. So something like that, you could go to market with something like that. If nobody else is doing it, it could be a reason for people to choose you. Um, but I think it's worth going through this process and thinking, how can I make something that's really different about me that appeals to my ideal prospect? And I'd say that, if you can't think of something different, maybe go back to what we did in the first session and try and more tightly define that ideal prospect, because focus is always more effective in marketing. If we're marketing to everybody, we're marketing to nobody. If we're marketing to somebody very specific, then they're going to have very specific pain points. If we can't be really specific about those pain points, we probably don't know that prospect well enough. So I think if you can work out your ideal prospect, work out what's, those kind of unique problems they've got, then you will be able to find something that's quite different that you can offer them. I think it's just about drilling down, and because the thing is here, we're not trying to get like hundreds and hundreds of new clients. I would say for most of the people on this webinar, we're looking to get, even if we got 1 or 2 new clients every month, that'd be a good result. So we can be quite tight in how we define that ideal prospect. One of the criticisms about sort of like niching your marketing that way that I hear is, aren't we sort of narrowing too much? And I say, that's exactly what you want to do, is narrow down really tightly, because then you can find people who've got, sort of very specific problems. You can create very specific solutions, and that's what's going to create that strong attraction.
And do you think the best place to start with that would be to go back to your current clients and think about them first of all, and how you serve them?
I think that's a really good thing to do, because you know so it's important to have that USP statement, but that isn't obviously the be all and end all of your marketing. Just by creating that, it's not going to suddenly mean, okay, go to market with that and you get new clients. You're going to have to support that with your marketing messaging. So one of the ways that you could do that is, one of the most powerful ways you can market any accounting or bookkeeping firm is to use case studies and testimonials. Is to say, look, I understand you. These are your, these are how we solve your pain points, and this is the powerful part. Here's how I've done it for other people like you, or other businesses like you. So starting with your existing clients, it means you've got that foundation to build upon. You understand more about those types of prospects or clients, and so you're coming from a base of kind of knowledge, rather than sort of picking something you've never worked in before and just going, I'd quite like to go after that. I mean, that doesn't mean you can't do that, of course, but if you start with your existing clients, you're going from a place of knowledge and experience, and that's going to really help, because you obviously understand that prospect more, and you can demonstrate that with case studies and testimonials.
Yeah, so we have 2 questions here from Luke. The first one is, from your research and work with firms, what do you think are the top 5 pain points for clients?
The top, it completely depends. I mean, there will always be some universal problems that go across business owners, right, and particularly small business owners, which most of us are going after. One of those is cash flow, and that's probably in itself one of the biggest things you could look at. Now that's obviously a big topic. Cash flow. There's things you can do within there, like getting paid faster, paying other people slower, factoring invoices. Lots of things you can do within there. But in terms of pain points, top five, you know, that's really what the whole kind of purpose of the last session is, for you to go out and try and work out what are the top 5 or 3 or 10 pain points of your ideal prospect. And you know, the more they almost the more they can be different from another type of prospect, the more powerful that can be, in the sense that you know, if you're working with I was just trying to pick something out of thin air, you know, agricultural businesses, they might have something very unusual, a very unusual pain point that is very different than, say, you know, a service business in a city. So you understanding that pain point and how it's different, well, that's going to be what's powerful when you create your USP and go and talk to those people. So you cannot generalize those things across different industries, niches, or whatever, unfortunately.
And so another question from Luke, how do we go about educating businesses about what to expect from an accountant when they perceive that the accountant doesn't do those types of things? And he mentioned especially the older generation who might not be using social media or doesn't understand how it works. He's saying it becomes harder to get the message there or to educate those prospects.
I mean, if you're pushing up against a brick wall, then maybe you want to go and push somewhere else. Might be one of the things you say. So you could either look at that as like an opportunity to educate those people, or just say, well, in the specific example you've given, the older generation, I'd be like, well, how long are they going to be clients for? You know, do they retire? Do they, are they dying off? To be pretty blunt about it. So maybe you go after younger prospects. Maybe you go after people who are more receptive to what you do. Um, just to reiterate in all of this, like, what we're going to be doing here is creating a 90-day plan to go after your ideal prospect. Now, that doesn't mean you can't still take on what might be called like legacy clients or traditional clients who get referred to you, or you just get through your sort of general networking and all of that kind of thing. This is where we go, let's pick somebody who we'd really like to work with and go after them. And so it's almost like campaign based. Now, if you can sort of run a campaign to a group of people who are really receptive to what you do and some who aren't, then that choice becomes easy, and kind of that's going to dictate what you do, basically.
Yeah, so we've got a couple more questions, but if anybody else has any, pop them into the questions window. Do you have an example of a unique product or service that you were talking about before?
Yeah, I do actually. There's a firm that we've just started working with in New Zealand, and they are focusing on what's called the triple bottom line, which is to do with basically having a bottom line where you take into account the environmental cost of your business as well. So, for example, like if you spend $10 on fuel, like they would say, okay, that's cost $10 to you, but it's cost this much to the environment. So we're going to account for that as well, and you need to offset that. So you could offset that by having an electric car or riding a bike to work or something like that. So you can either remove that cost, or you sort that out by maybe like planting a tree, and that offsets some of that cost. So they account for that. Not going to appeal to all businesses, but there's certainly, like a lot of businesses who would be interested in that. That's something that's a bit unusual. Could be other things, like, for example, you might have a system for business planning that you could take to market. So it's like could be one that you offer to all businesses, or you could go, let's take the example of creative businesses. You could go, we've got a system that is as a business planning system for creative businesses. Now, that might be pretty much the same as every other way that you write a business plan, except it's been tweaked to take into account, the little specifics of that market. Something like that, is is potentially enough to be unique. I guess one final example might be, you know, like a financial planning system. So it could be you are, you know, you're going after individual clients, looking after their personal finances. It could be some system where, you know, this is like a dashboard for managing your sort of investments or your sort of superannuation portfolio, that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, a few examples there. I mean, it's hard to go, you know, could go on for a while, but hopefully there's a few examples that might illustrate that.
Yeah. Amber's asking how often should you review your USP statement?
I think it's sort of in the back of your mind all of the time, right? It is for me, is that you should always be thinking, I mean, put that to one side for a second, is like, you should always be thinking like, you know, who is my ideal prospect? And how well do I understand them, and how well does what I do fit with what they need? And the USP statement is like the shorthand version of that, right? Is that, you know, so in a way you're thinking about that all the time. You know, you're thinking about your business. You're thinking, you know, are we going after the right people or person? You know, who's my ideal prospect? And you know, always be thinking of what are their pain points, because they do change. You know, it could be a provider, a different, you know, firm comes in and competes with you maybe and starts solving that, but you can find something else. It could be that I don't know, your market becomes, you know, technology solves some of their pain points, so you have to go elsewhere. So it's never static. You know, business is never static. Marketing is never static. We keep constantly having to review, you know, what we do. But I think it's, yeah. I mean, I would be like, more than your USP marketing plan, like a 90-day marketing plan. I mean, maybe that gives us the time frame. Is that, you know, every 3 months, come back and be looking at you plan what we're going to do over the next 3 months, because it's a kind of like, we have our overall strategy that we work to here at Bizink, but we'll always go back to that sort of detailed 90-day plan, because that's the sort of time frame where you can go, okay, 90 days is enough time to get results, but it's not too long that we get into the realms of fiction. And we've all done that with planning. Let's write, you know, 3-year business plan. I mean, I remember writing for a bank a 5-year business plan. What a load of nonsense, you know. You're just making stuff up. You can have your idea of what your strategy is and where you want to be. The actual nitty gritty of that, you know, you can't. So yeah, 90 days, you know, you sort of good time frame. Things can happen in there. You can actually get a business result, but it's not too long that you kind of just almost like making stuff up for the sake of it. And maybe that's a good you know, time to review it formally, but I think all the time it'd be thinking about it.
Yeah, and I've got an easy one for you now. Where did you say you could get the previous webinar? Linda has missed it.
Monthlymarketing.com. And also, if you registered for this webinar, you're on a list. We'll be sending you out, you know, all of the recordings afterwards, so you can find them there. But yeah, monthlymarketing.com. You will see it. The session was called Ideal Prospect, and you'll be able to find the recording on that page.
Cool. So that's all the questions that I can see for now.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for that, Anthea, and thanks to you all for coming along today. Next time we'll be looking at your prospect map. That's actually, it's a lot easier. It's quite a straightforward session. I know this one's a bit almost intangible and tricky, but it's a really worthwhile process to go through, using that formula to start thinking about who is your ideal prospect and how you're going to talk to them. In the prospect map, what we'll actually do is go, okay, where does your ideal prospect hang out? You know, are they on Facebook or LinkedIn or both? Do they attend events or conferences? Because obviously what we want to do is go, okay, once we know where those places are, it's not too hard to work out. We want to get in front of them in those places, start talking to them, start communicating that USP, and winning them as clients. So I'll wrap it up there today. Yeah, thanks for coming along. Hopefully see you at the next session, and yeah, check out monthofmarketing.com to see some of the other sessions that we'll be running in September. So thanks for that, and enjoy the rest of your day.